All right. There. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to school. Are we all sufficiently caffeinated to be here today? Not quite? Rookie mistake. Maybe next time then. Yeah. I am excited to be back here. If you don't know me already, I'm Lisa. I'm your instructor for this semester. You may call me Lisa. If it makes you feel more comfortable, you can call me Dr. Lisa or Professor Lisa, but no one else calls me Dr. Hoffman except my dad, and he does it ironically. So it's fine. Let's see. So you came here for longitudinal multi-level models. Does that sound right? Excellent. Then let me introduce you to the other personnel, if you wouldn't mind standing up and introducing yourself, the teaching assistants.
Hi, I'm Nicole Tennyson. I'm in the Higher Education Student Affairs program and the Educational Measurement and Statistics programs. I've TA'd with Lisa a handful of times, and I'm very excited. Please feel free to call me Ten or Tennyson. I've started using my last name instead of making it Nicole. Thanks.
Cool. And hello, Vladimir. You gotta talk loud for the Zoomers, okay?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Vladimir. This is my 4-year here in the EMS program. I've been working with Lisa since 2 years maybe.
Well, the whole time you've been here, but you've been TAing for...
So I'm happy to be here and I'm here to help, and I'm trying to facilitate some of the things that we are doing here. So if you want, we can talk, you can attend my office hours, you can tell me here, and you can email.
All three, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, that's us. We'll do the go around the room and introduce ourselves thing in a little bit. I wanted to get through some of the expectation stuff. So here is where all the stuff will be, this web page. I only use Icon for very few things. The course readings are there. One of the course activities that you do through the quizzes mechanism will be there, but otherwise all of the materials are going to be here. The reason for that is because these websites live on. So in 2 years after you come out of this class, if you want to go look something up again, you can find it on the web. Anything that's an icon stays an icon, and so that's why I choose to keep my stuff open source. As I mentioned here, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll move it over to the screen share so you can. I'm recording. I record all of my classes, and the way that this will work for those of you who are unfamiliar is that the recording will capture the screen share that the Zoomers see and what you see on this projector. It captures the audio, mostly me, and I have to remember to repeat your questions because sometimes the microphone doesn't pick that up, but it does not capture my face or any of your faces. So if it makes you uncomfortable to think about your voice asking questions on the internet, feel free to use the chat option in Zoom. Even if you're sitting here, you can log into the Zoom so that you can talk to people. And if you're feeling extra shy and you don't want people to know you asked a question, you can direct message me or you can direct message the TAs, and then we can read your question aloud. All right, so in terms of when stuff is happening, we're meeting Tuesday, Thursdays in the 12:30 block. I had a typo in my email that said we're going until 2. No, we're going until 1:45. My next class starts at 2. So I will be here in the 15 minutes in between. My office hours are Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 4:30 on Zoom. The way that I run them is as a group, so just show up. First come, first serve. I will answer your question. If that is all you needed from me, you can log back out. If you want to stay there and keep working in case you have more questions, that's fine too. We can just hang out. Let's see. Nikki's office hours are on Zoom as well?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm trying to remember what I have on here. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 3:30, so right after this class. And Vladimir's are hybrid. How do you get to North 476?
That's 4th floor. This side of Liquid Center is back of well.
Just keep going until you get there. Is that the answer?
It's hard to get there. So if you want to go there, if you cannot find the office, you can email me and we can meet here on 1st floor. So you can go there and you can connect via Zoom.
Yeah, I'm guessing no one is brand new to Iowa given that this is an advanced class, but if you are, this building is a maze. It's not just you. You will meet so many undergraduates walking around like, am I in North or South? I don't know. And then some of the classrooms are like hidden behind, like you have to go through a wing to get there, and that makes it even worse because there's no number on a door that you can look for. So yeah, just be patient with them. We all need some help the first week of classes, or even more than that. And yours are Fridays, is that right? No. Thursdays 11 to noon, and then Fridays 9 to 11. Okay. Let's see. So in terms of course materials, the textbook is mine. I wrote it. I wrote it for you. So you will never have a better excuse to not read the textbook, right? Like, I made it for you. And I wrote it from this class. So I didn't write the book it's the opposite. When I was writing it, I literally sat down and thought, what would I say about this? And then I just sort of transcribed myself. But the book is sufficiently old enough, it was published in 2015, that it is now free from the university website. So log into the library, download a full unlocked PDF of it, and you do not need to spend however much it costs right now to purchase it. I have a bunch of readings. Those are also in a zip folder on Icon. So one click and you'll have all of the readings for the semester. The rest of this is a syllabus that is live. So that means that this page will be updated every time I add new material. Every time that I finish a video, it will be posted on the day I recorded it. And I will put a few notes as to what we covered. So slides, 1 to 12 out of lecture 1 or something, whatever we happen to have that day. The videos are going to be hosted on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel, and this class has its own playlist. So I do that for a couple of reasons. One is that YouTube is an easy way to get to stuff. So everyone can open any device you have and watch the videos. It does a decent job of closed captioning automatically. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's decent. And if you go to the video description section, there is a link to a transcript. That transcript is searchable. So if you want to say, sometimes I will do the classic joke, homework question, homework question, to try and get your attention. You can search for cough, cough, homework question, and you will find where I did that so that you can review. So those things tend to make it easier. If you need to miss class, that's okay. If you want to come on Zoom instead of in the room, that's okay too. You don't need to tell me. So I'm just trying to keep everything open and accessible so that you can make use of these materials however you see fit. So to keep myself from wandering around too much, I have lecture 1, and I have some slides designed to help us get to know the class expectations, as well as a little bit of introduction about what this is about. So let me grab that, and away we go. If you haven't downloaded already, now would be a lovely time. I have the PowerPoint version so I can do animations and such. I post the PDFs. If you want to have an editable version, the back translation to PowerPoint is actually pretty good. So you can export these slides into whatever modality you want. All right, move over here. Oh, very big. There we go, that looks better. All right, any questions before we dive in? Yes, sir.
When we're asking questions via email about something and including the screenshots, do you want them sent to you or you and the TAs as well, and whoever gets to it gets to it?
So the question was, who do you email when you need help? I would say if you have not spoken with the TAs about a question, start with me. If you have consulted with them and you want to follow up on some advice they gave you, then it would be okay to do that with them. Does that sound fair? If you're, say, I don't know, friends with the TAs and you feel more comfortable going to them for that reason, or related, I don't know, hypothetically, then that's fine too. Whoever you feel most comfortable with is fine, but I think I should be the default as the person who's getting paid the most to do this. Does that seem fair? Or getting paid at all, as it were. All right, away we go, unless there's any other questions. All right, so what to expect? This is multi-level models for longitudinal data. That's what I wanted to call it, but they said that was too many letters, so I had to shorten it. But what to expect is that I believe in you. I expect that you are all here for a reason. This course is not required. So either you think it's going to help you or someone else thinks it's going to help you and asks you to come do it. So I'm starting from that perspective. I believe that all of us are capable of learning this stuff and that all of us can see a very tangible benefit to learning advanced quantitative methods, not just in terms of making our own research better, but in providing more avenues to do research with other people. If you look at my CV, especially from my early years, most of it is Lisa's second author because she ran the analyses and wrote the results section. So that's a way that you can get involved in the publication process if you know the models and you can explain them to people. So that's what I want you to be able to have. So I'm focusing on accessibility and application. This is not a theoretical statistics course. That is not my brand, and I'm not even capable of making it that way. I am here to teach you data analysis for longitudinal data. I want you to have skills that you can take with you. I believe in mastery. So you will have multiple chances to get things right and multiple opportunities to practice things. It's not just a one and done. I don't believe in task irrelevant variance through anxiety. I don't want any sort of stress or fear to get in the way of your learning. So that's why I don't do things that make people scared or anxious. I don't give timed tests. I don't expect you to memorize things or do hand calculations. That isn't even going to be possible for this class. There is no need to resort to ChatGPT for help with your homework. Here's the thing, folks. I'm going to give you examples of everything you need to do. Find and replace within my examples is what I need you to do, not generate code from scratch. If you go outside of the examples, there's not necessarily a way that I can help you troubleshoot some rando's code or some random AI's code, okay? So if you find yourself with that level of desperation, like you're going to ChatGPT for homework help, stop. Stop and go to any of the three of us for help with that. In terms of the structure of my materials, I plan things in terms of units. So a unit to me is a set of lecture slides that are more conceptual, followed by an example document that has annotated syntax and output that we will walk through together as a group. I do provide all of the source files that go into the examples though, so if you'd like to run things live and have them pop up on your screen as you go, you have that option. But I have been in too many classes and workshops in my past where we ran things together as a group, and if you get off, you can't necessarily catch up very easily, and there's too many of you for me to go around and help everybody get caught up individually as to where we are in the code, so it's just easier to have it in a static format. I have a note here, the wordy concepts. Yeah, my slides are packed with words and stuff. Sorry, I'm not sorry. Do you know why I do this? Future you is going to appreciate having everything I'm saying in front of you and only having the extra stuff of things you thought were relevant from what I'm talking about or things you wanted to make a note about. This will be a more comprehensive set of materials for you to take with you. So yeah, it's packed. And if you're like, oh my God, this is too full, you can stretch it out on your own. You can convert to PowerPoint, you can add the notes sections or whatever it is that makes you feel less squishy about looking at these giant slides. For the record, when I give talks, they don't look like this. They're much more like fewer words, more pictures, and that kind of stuff. In terms of the example documents and software, so I am going to emphasize Stata in this course because a lot of people here are going to use it, and I'm also going to emphasize R. SAS is still going to be within the materials, but I'm taking it out of the examples. I'm leaving it in the materials because I already have that stuff and because sometimes folks need SAS, particularly if they work for Iowa testing programs. I know they still use a lot of SAS, right? Yep, so if you need to learn SAS, it's still in there. I can certainly help you with it. And all of this stuff is hosted outside on Icon on the course website. Okay, with me so far? Excellent. So I'm not going to scare you. I'm not going to make you take tests or do anything that is timed or high stakes. I'm not going to assume that you know anything past regression because that's all I need you to know to start. I'm starting with regression models and then adding pieces to them that make them suitable for longitudinal data. Now that being said, if you have taken a lot of other courses and you're like, oh, is this related to this thing we talked about last year? Certainly ask those questions because odds are good, you're right. Particularly, there are two different ways to estimate longitudinal models in the most common software. One is a multi-level approach, which is what I'm going to teach you, MLM. The other is structural equation modeling, SEM. And I will have some pieces of my examples that show you how to work back and forth across those things, but that's something that I will record a separate video for. That way folks who haven't had SEM can be like, not it, not it, not it, not it, and those who have can benefit from seeing the connections. So the things we're going to be doing. I have two kinds of activities. One is what I call formative assessments. These are opportunities for structured review. There are 7 of them planned this semester, so one more than usual, and each one is worth 2 points out of a total of 100. And you get your points if you do them at all. You can be completely wrong or completely off base, and if you make an honest effort, I will give you the points. After the next day, we will go over them in class. The other thing you're going to be doing is homework. I have 5 of them planned for this class, and that's where the remainder of your points will be. We'll talk about that, more about that in just a second. There will be a homework 0 designed to introduce you to the homework system that I use, because it is not an icon thing, it is a thing that I made up, and you'll get 2 points of extra credit if you can show me that you can use this homework system. This semester, we're not doing projects. We're not doing individual data analyses. There are 2 reasons for that. Number 1, there's too many of you. There's 29 people registered in this class, and I'm hoping to maybe pick up a few more, right? Because, the more the merrier. The other is that longitudinal data come in so many flavors and kinds and structures that to ask you to get a data set that would necessarily work for the things that we're going over would be very difficult to standardize that. So I don't try. I tried for years and then I finally had to give up. What I will provide is canned data. So you all will have data sets to analyze, but they will be from simulations. In the advanced class, however, put a placeholder in that for the spring. I'm going to teach a special topics, advanced longitudinal models. Then we will get into projects, because we'll have done a lot of different kinds of models by then, and it will be easier, I think, to do something that would be customizable and individual. So what I will try to do, though, is to link the idea of different research designs, kinds of data, research questions, and models as explicitly as possible. I do want to prepare you to be able to analyze your own data. So if what I'm covering doesn't match, or you're not sure if it matched, please talk to me, because odds are good I have resources from other people or from other classes that I can give you that would give you something else to work from. All right, so everything is take home, open note and untimed. I do accept late work with the small penalty. So if you are late in doing a formative assessment, it's -1 point out of the 2. If you are late in doing a homework, it's -2 points out of however many. They range from, I think, like 12 to 18 a piece, something like that. And that's overall, that's not per day or anything like that. So the idea here is that we have a question from one of the Zoomers. What is canned data? Excellent question. That is fake data. Like you open the can and like little people fall out, and they're not real people. And I wish that someone would tell this to the IRB people, because Jonathan, my husband, also works in this program, told me a story the other day about how he was asked whether he had IRB approval for a research study he was going to start using simulated data. The only people who could possibly be at risk from this research is him getting carpal tunnel syndrome from typing too much. So no, canned data is fake people where I control all of the parameters. The way that it works, I'll tell you this straight up, is I simulate data, like with the common story, and each of you, I use your ID numbers as a random seed. So you all have the same kind of data, but it's an individual data set. All right, sorry for missing the question there. I'm out of practice. I haven't done this in like 3 months, but we're going to get back into it. Does anyone else have to teach in the last 2 days and feel out of practice? Yeah? It's like, oh, I know how to do this, I swear. It'll come back. Yeah. All right, where was I? Oh, yes, lateness. So the idea is to gently encourage you to keep up with the class so you don't get too far behind. This stuff is cumulative, so it starts to snowball if you miss things. But 2 points is something that you can come back from if things go sideways. And like worst case scenario, you're down 5 assignments times 2 points, 2 for extra credit, that would be only 8. So you could still end up with an A if you do really well and turn in everything late, okay? That being said, I want to be respectful of the other deadlines and activities you have in your life. So if you look at the syllabus and you're like, oh, that week I'm out of town for a conference, or I'm doing comprehensive exams and I'll be a mess that week, if you ask me at least 2 weeks in advance, I'll push your due date. So just tell me what's going on and suggest an alternative, and I will agree with that if it's reasonable. The due dates that are on the syllabus right now are the earliest anything will be due. But it is entirely possible if we get behind in terms of what I had hoped to cover, that I will push them to be later to make sure that there's at least 1 week between when we finish talking about something and you're responsible for it. Deadlines right now are all on Mondays. So Monday nights at 11:59 is when things are due. It's not a coincidence that I have my office hours at 3 to 4:30 on Mondays for any last minute questions. Let's see, formative assessments then. So these are opportunities for structured review. These should be things that you should answer off the top of your head. So they might include definitions of, say, terminology or things like that. They might include big picture, like what are the 3 things you need to worry about when you have this problem. They might include case studies, like, Professor X wants to know about blah, 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 and this is the model they set up. Tell me what's wrong with it, like those kinds of things. So if you're looking at the question and you're like, yeah, I have no idea what she's talking about, that's your clue that you need to go back and look at that topic a little bit more. If your answer is, yeah, I still have no idea what you're talking about, Lisa, even after looking at this, that's your answer. You get your 2 points. That tells me something. So because there's a lot of you, I won't have time to give much feedback, but we are going to read them. Nikki and Vladimir, 10, excuse me, I'm still getting used to that. All right, are going to help lead some of the formative assessments, right? You both want to do that? And they will be reading your answers as well. So it's an opportunity for you to communicate what you know, but also for us to see if there's any common sources of misconceptions or confusion, and that's a check-in to where we can maybe spend a little more time or do some reviewing. Homework assignments then. Again, no ChatGPT required, no Googling required. I will show you what to do. You'll each have a unique data set, as we said. There are 2 kinds of questions on here, and if you've seen these homeworks before, it's exactly what you're expecting. If you haven't, the way that it works is that I will ask you to fit a model, for instance, fit a model that has this outcome and these predictors, for instance. The first question will be some kind of fingerprint for the model so that you know you have the right model. It will be something like a residual variance, or it will be a log likelihood value or a -2 log likelihood value. You're like, what the hell is that? If you don't know, we'll get there, I promise. But point being, it is a number that if you get it right, you will know immediately that you're on the right track. And you will know immediately if you have it right because you will enter the number into a text field on a website, hit enter, and if you are right to the level of precision needed, it will turn green. If you are wrong, the box around it will turn red, and you will try again. You will try as many times as it takes until you get the right answer, and I don't know or care how many times that is. So those questions, you will know immediately if you're right. The other questions then are results, paragraph completion, or multiple choice questions that ask you to interpret the values that you just found. Because they are multiple choice, I can't give you immediate feedback, but after the assignment is due and it closes, then you will see your results. Right answers will turn green, wrong answers will turn red, followed by what the answer should have been in green. So that way, if you don't get everything correct, if you're not perfect, it's okay. You can work backwards to see what you missed and hopefully come up with the right answer should have been. If it is the case that everybody finishes their assignment on time, I can answer questions as a group and go over it, but that happens so very rarely that I can't promise it. But if you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, I don't know why this is wrong, that would be a great thing to bring to office hours or an email to any of us. Okay, so my job is to answer your questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions, because one of 3 things is going to happen if you ask a question. The first thing is that someone is going to be really happy that you did, so they didn't have to. That's one thing. The next level up is someone's going to be really happy because they were like, oh wait, I think I know this, and they're thinking of the answer, and if they get it right, then you just made them feel better about themselves because they could have answered that question. Third thing is for the folks who are here hopefully getting more practice in teaching, is that you can think to yourself, how would have I answered that question? Or how would I have prevented that question from being needed to be asked in the first place? Like make those sorts of higher level things. So don't be shy. I was the person when I audited courses as a postdoc with my hand in the air every 30 seconds, and that was how I started to make the connections that I really needed to. So please. A lot of you know me already. I don't know all of you, but I like you to talk, right? Even though you're sitting there mutely nodding at me right now. I realize it's a little awkward, but no, this should be a conversation. You're never interrupting me. So I'm going to ask, your job is to ask the questions, I'm going to answer them, review, Don't be afraid to ask for help if you get stuck on homework. So I would ask you, if you can, rather than sending me your entire syntax file and being like, I don't know what's wrong, send me a screenshot of, here's what I tried, here's the error message I got, and here's what I thought the answer should have been, because those are much easier to process, and I can do it while I'm sitting on my phone as opposed to having to go to my computer, download it, run it, and do all the things. Do the readings, but they're not your first priority. So your first priority is to show up. Your next priority is to get your homework done. If the readings help you with those things, that's great. I think that my textbook will help you, again, because I wrote it for you. But a lot of the other readings are more like FYI, here's an additional piece of this, here's a more modern take on this problem. They're things for your future reference. They're not as essential to read. What is most essential is to start doing things. So doing it with the canned data that I'll give you, and if you have your own data to practice on and you want to start running things, those are great questions to bring to office hours as well. I'm happy to talk about other projects besides this class. So in terms of attending, I'm not going to require it, I'm going to encourage it. I'm going to trust you. You're all grown-ups, you all have your own priorities and your own system of assigning them. So I'd like to see you here as much as possible. I will let you choose. So I've got quite a few Zoomers in front of me, quite a few roomers, as we call them now, R-O-O-M-E-R. And you can switch back and forth. You don't need to tell me. If you can't make it, you don't need to tell me. You can catch up with the YouTube recordings. However, if I haven't seen you in a few weeks, like you ghost me, I reserve the right to bother you. Is that fair? Okay. I once had a student who stopped coming to my class for like 2 months, and I reached out to them over email, and they told me, I have really big anxiety about being in public, and I'm afraid you're going to call on me, and it freaks me out so much that I didn't want to come. So I cut them a deal. I said, if I promise to never, ever cold call on you, if I just ask you a question without you having raised your hand first, if I promise to never do that, will you come back? They did. So if you want to make that deal with me, that's fine. Whatever you need to be successful is fine. That being said, if you show up sick and cough and sneeze over everybody and get us all sick, I will not be happy. I have a 9-year-old. Who else has children in this room? Couple people? Yeah, it counts. Soon to be children? Yeah. You don't want to make us sick, right? So that's the one thing we've learned from the pandemic, is that showing up to work and coughing all over everybody is probably not the best thing. So if you're sick or your kids are sick, just stay out of the classroom, please. That will make us happy. You're not going to miss out. I will have the recordings, we'll have the materials, everything will be fine. All right. If there's any schedule changes, I'm going to email you. So email is going to be my primary mode of communication. I do it just by literally pasting your addresses into my own email as opposed to going through Maui or Icon. Each semester, I usually have a number of auditors, and so that's the only way I can sort of keep everybody on one list. If I'm sick and I can't talk, then I'll let you know if we're moving to Zoom or if we have to cancel outright. The fall is not so much for dangerous weather, but the spring certainly. The last January, there was a 2-week period where my son went to school 5 days out of 2 weeks. And then by the end of the spring, we were in tornado season where classes had to get canceled because of that. The fall could have freak snowstorms. I don't know. I'm just leaving it out there. If things go sideways, if the public schools are closed, we're moving to Zoom. I'm not going to put you at risk. And if you have other reasons to move to Zoom, that's your prerogative. So nothing we have to do here is more important than our health and safety. I honestly believe that. All right. Questions or comments? Not yet. Am I talking too fast? No? Yeah. I'm like, maybe I should put this away and reach for the water that I always bring and never use. I know, I got to make it through like 3:15 talking, so that's a lot. I don't know how actual teachers do it, like elementary school teachers and high school teachers that talk all day long to children, right? Like they're parenting and talking at the same time. I don't know how to do that. So yeah, I'm a little extra caffeinated, just this much, but I'm just excited to be back. And excited to teach you Syscall software if you don't know it already. How's that for a segue? So we're doing Stata and R. I'm keeping SAS as its legacy. By the way, I know Stata is supposed to be written this way. Okay, I know that. Do you know why I insist on putting it in capital letters? Yes, spite. Because Stata insists that all of its commands are in lowercase. It's case and space sensitive, and so that just makes me frustrated. So I decided to rename it. Because I have a coding system in which dedicated program commands I always put in capital letters, and then like options you would change, I use lowercase or title case for, and Stata won't let me do that. Neither will R, for that matter. So, but I have enough issues with R, I don't need to worry about that one. SPSS has actually gotten better in the past few years. I opened it up for the first time recently, and I was impressed at all the stuff they had added. But the reality is that no one else uses it. So I don't teach with it because if you learn only SPSS, you're not going to be able to take other courses. Now, that being said, I know how to use SPSS for these models, and on my textbooks website, which is linked right here, it's called pilesofvariance.com, that's my domain. I have all of the textbooks examples in SAS, SPSS, Stata, and M+, and I'm going to be adding R as I work on the book's second edition. So I have a whole bunch of SPSS examples if you want to be able to try to do things that way sometimes. So my story is that I learned SPSS as an undergraduate and as a graduate student. I picked up SAS on my postdoc and really liked it and got pretty good at it. When I was teaching after that as a tenure track person, I taught workshops for ICPSR out of the University of Michigan, and everybody there used Stata exclusively, so I had to pick it up to be able to do that. I am still working on learning R. I don't like it. I never will. I know that there's a lot of people who think it's, like the best thing since sliced bread or the cat's pajamas or whatever, old person expression you want to put in there. I am not one of these people. So if you know Stata or R better than me, and you see me doing something that is like more tedious or less efficient or inaccurate, please tell me. You're not going to offend me, okay? I want to get better at this stuff. I can also help you in M+, but that's not going to be used this semester because they don't have the method of estimation that we're going to be using in this class. So I am assuming that you know how to use some software. So let's take a poll here. Stata folks? Quite a few. Interestingly, segmented in the classroom, it's only the right side of the room is the Stata room. We've got 3 or 4 Zoomers raising their hands as well, thank you. And then R folks? Everyone else, okay. Does anybody not know one of those? No one's like, I'm not gonna admit that right now. But that's fine. If you're new to these programs, then I am gonna direct you to the class after this. I am teaching the intermediate statistical methods class, which is actually just introduction to general linear models. A lot of folks in that class will have never seen these packages either. So I have videos, like 45-minute videos, like if you've never opened R for the first time, like how do you even get started? Where do you type things? So those materials you can feel free to make use of. We have a question from the Zoomers. Go for it. You can talk or type as you see fit. Or just the hand still in the air, maybe? Not a question. Oh, hands down. Okay,
Yeah,
not a
it's
question.
no question,
All right,
sorry.
all good. So if you're trying to figure out which one to use, the reason people do R is because it's free. I believe that you get what you pay for, however, and that's part of my issues with it. SAS has a new online thing that you can do for free if you're part of a student or faculty called SAS On Demand if you're interested. I have a link to where you can buy Stata if you need to. I've had people choose to do that, but you don't need to, obviously. Stata is used in places that work with large-scale weighted survey data most frequently, so some of the disciplines in this room as well as people I've taught in the past. R is increasingly mainstream. It's taught in classes by Ariel and Jonathan, Dr. Aloe. I don't remember his name either, goodness. However, the thing about R is that it's the Wild West. Like there's base R that does certain things, but the whole reason that people like R is because they write their own packages to do extra things. And that's great, assuming the person who makes the package knows what they're doing, which you cannot be assured of. The documentation is usually pretty terrible, to be honest, because R is free and the people putting these things out there are not being paid for their work. So why would they go to all the trouble to make it perfect if they're not going to see the benefits? So particularly for these models, R is actually less flexible and harder to work with than any other program, including SPSS. There is no single routine in R that does everything that mixed will do in Stata, mixed will do in SPSS, or mixed will do in SAS. That's the reality. So you will hear me grump about this. So at the same time, I certainly have my opinions and preferences. I recognize the reality that people want you to know R, and I'm going to help teach too. I only use base R when it comes to data manipulation things. I do not use the tidyverse. So if you know how to like mutate, or what are the other ones, mangle, mungle, like all these words that they made up, if you want to do it that way, that's fine. If you know how to do something a certain way and it works, Godspeed, go for it. So what are we talking about this semester? Longitudinal models, broken into, I would say, 3 overarching sections. So the background section, this is concepts, that's the rest of this lecture, as well as a bit of a sales pitch as to why I think you should stick around this semester and learn this stuff. We'll do, if you need to, if you'd like to brush up on regression, that's the next unit, that's unit 2, but I'm linking it to another class. I'm not going to present it in class because enough of you have had that from me or other people more recently. But if you feel like you need to review, that is on the course website. Let me pull that back up. Yeah. So the Generalized Linear Models course opens with a review of regression models, and so that is where I would direct you if you need a little bit of extra background. Then we're going to talk about repeated measures ANOVA, but from the perspective of what is under the hood. ANOVA is a model. ANOVA is a statement about your data. And so I need to help you understand what that statement is so that you can understand how multi-level models differ in some cases or are the same in other cases. Then we get into what I call unconditional longitudinal models. That word means nothing is in the model as a predictor except time. It's just what kind of change over time is there? What kind of relationships are there across occasions, across persons? Do people need their own intercepts? Do people need their own rates of change? Is their change linear or is it kind of bendy? Like all of those choices, that is going to be like 8 weeks of our class, give or take. And as I note, this is the part that I get to skip when I teach the clustered version of multi-level. And that's why I can get to so many more things in that class, is because I don't have this like giant unit of time because it's not relevant. So if you took clustered MLM, and I know quite a few of you did, this is not a repeat of that class. It is a different set of concerns and choices and options specific to longitudinal data. Now, that being said, the big picture is the same. We have level 2 is between and level 1 is within. We'll talk about that in just a minute. It's just the adjectives at the end of it are changing. It used to be between and within cluster last year, now it's between and within person. So there is definitely some overlap, but it's a lot of new stuff. Then the end of it is conditional models, meaning adding other predictors besides time. Unfortunately, I can only get to person predictors in this class. I have tried to get past it every time and I always fail, so I've just resigned myself to that. So we will include person characteristics as predictors in these models only. In the advanced class coming in the spring, which I would highly encourage those of you to take it if you haven't had it before, you would not have had that, right? You tried to audit it, remember, right? That didn't go well, did it? Yeah. Yeah, it turns out the intro is helpful before you get to the advanced, but you're going to come back in the spring?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I'm just picking on you. So time varying or level 1 predictors, we'll pick that up in the spring. And in the clustered class, you're like, oh, does that ring a bell? Like the contextual and the between and the within and yeah. It's even worse in longitudinal. It's even worse. Yeah, it's because it's not just between, there's different kinds of between. And then you need to learn structural equation modeling software to do it. So it's a whole like bigger thing to be able to do that. So this is what I can get through in one semester, and that's what I plan to do. All right, that's the transition point. questions about what we've talked about so far? Zoomers, anything on your end? No? All right, then I'm going to pause. Hopefully. Come on. Yes. Hopefully I didn't make it mad. Dun dun dun. Question from the Zoomers.